All right, algorithms, how you liking that opening? Welcome to the Celebrity Court of Public Opinion. I'm your judge, Al Reynolds, and today we're diving into the legal battles that have captured the headlines and divided public opinion. I'm joined by our esteemed panel. I call them my legal beagles, and tonight I have with us our lawyer of humorists, Sean Carter. Welcome to the Court of Public Opinion, or the Celebrity Court of Public Opinion.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Don't forget, algorithms, to throw in that chat, that clown emoji for our esteemed Counselor Carter. And joining Counselor Carter, the one, the only, that fiery attorney, Shatan Turner, civil attorney Shatan Turner. Shatan, welcome back to Celebrity Court of Public Opinion.
Thanks for having me back, Your Honor. I see you were at the White House again. They need to get
you. Yes. I need to go as many times as I can before the change of administration, right?
I understand that.
Because, you know, I was talking to, funny that you mentioned that, Counsel. I was talking to the people that I work with at the White House, and they were like, yo, you know, we're all out of a job in like a month and a half. And I was like, wow, like every job, they were like, listen, everybody there, everybody working in the White House and in the West Wing are packing their boxes. It's such a weird experience at this time. But anyway, had a great time with the Celtics championship there. It's so interesting to watch Jason Tatum, you know, who's so young, $32 million contract for the next 3 or 4 years. What do you think about that, Counselor Carter?
It's only 32? I thought it was like 60.
No, he's 32. His contract was a total of $163 million. Uh-oh, we're in trouble now. Attorney Turner is drinking tonight.
Hey, cheers.
All right, operators. Court is now in. All right, did y'all hear that? First stop, and this is a very disturbing story for me. We're going to welcome a gentleman by the name of Marcus Fakana. Welcome to Celebrity Court of Public Opinion. As you know, Marcus Fakana was caught in Dubai having sex with a 17-year-old. Little did he know, having sex in Dubai with a 17-year-old was not only illegal, but it comes with some very serious legal, what we're going to call these ramifications. And it's in Dubai, the legal age of consent is 18 years old, meaning any sexual act with a person under the age is considered statutory rape, even if it was consensual. And in his case, it was consensual. Fakana could be charged under the Dubai Penal Code articles related to sexual offenses, which imposes up to life imprisonment or 20 plus years for statutory rape. Attorney Carter, please break down this case for us today, because I want people to know Marcus Fakana, we would consider, is an African male, and the young lady that he had consensual sex with is from Great Britain, and she is British. Take it away, Counselor Carter.
Yeah, I can't even deny that probably has something to do with it here. I would imagine the mother might not have been so upset, because what happens is they went on vacation, both families separately. He ends up getting involved with this girl, and then she goes back home, and somehow the mother finds the picture.
Well, wait a minute. Let's not jump the. You know, they met.
They
liked each other. The daughter was all over him. Loved the color of his skin. Thought he was so handsome. Ended up in bed with him, having a good old time, to the tune that she recorded it on her phone.
Right.
All right. Go ahead, Counselor Carter.
You read a little bit into that. I'm not sure, but anyway, but okay, let's assume that's exactly what happened. And then the mother sees these pictures, sends them to the people in Dubai, and says, go arrest him. So before his family can get back from vacation, he's now been arrested. They keep him 3 days, and then they let him out on bond. And then, but they don't say you can get on bond, but you can't leave the country. So his family goes back to England to work and try to make money to pay for this legal defense. He's there in a B&B somewhere, okay, trying to wait for
Airbnb. He's in an
Airbnb somewhere, you know, costing his family, you know, they're all going broke, all right, trying to foot these bills for a situation that, you know, 18 and 17, all right? In America, you know, there's a legal term for that. They call it Romeo and Juliet exceptions, because we have the same law, but we have the same laws about having sex with people underage. All right, it's the same criminal offense. It's very serious offense, but in many jurisdictions, there's a sort of a what's called a close in age exception. So if the one person's 19, the other person's 17 or 18 or 17, a 2 or 3 year difference, then we'll treat it differently. Sometimes prosecutors won't charge it at all. Other times they will make it a misdemeanor instead of a felony. They won't make you, for instance, in California, you don't have to file as a sex offender for the rest of your life. So the penalties are usually less. It's not necessarily okay, but it's considered a lot less serious than if he was a 30-year-old man, right? 40-year-old man. That guy would go to jail, and rightfully so.
Attorney Turner, let me ask you this, Attorney Turner, real quick. I'm going to jump in here. Now, Dubai is Islamic, right? So they're on the Islamic law, and they basically have some of the strictest laws, whether you guys believe it or not. You can go to Marrakesh and party your eyeballs out like you're in Miami, but they still have the strictest laws on, not Marrakesh, sorry. Where did I go in Dubai? Anyway, but they have the strictest laws on morality and sexual conduct. Can you talk to me how it's important for our algoriters when they visit these cities, especially when it's a party town, because Dubai is also known as a party town, how important it is that you still have to observe the laws of the country?
Your Honor, you must have had a good old time if you don't even remember where you went. I'm just saying, yeah, that's a good thing you got out.
Exactly.
But yeah, this case actually is disturbing on a lot of levels. It reminds me of that like old Jessica Simpson song, I Think I'm in Love, right? Like people are moved by their feelings, especially teenagers. There's a reason people talk about teenage hormones. The problem is that I'll use a metaphor from my good friend, Attorney Redwine. If you're going to sticky, you need to know the rulies, right? So when you are traveling out of the country, and quite frankly, now that we have this new administration where modern day Jim Crow might be a thing, if you travel outside of your home state, you need to know what the laws are in a lot of respects before you engage in something and presume that it's lawful, because the law changes. So as Attorney Carter indicated, in the United States, there are some states that do have these Romeo and Juliet exceptions that allow for more lenient penalties if there's a close in age situation. However, down south, they don't really play that. And it might be because of what Attorney Carter mentioned in this case, because they want to reserve it just in case there's some nice little white girl who falls in love with a black boy and the parents don't like it. So I'm not saying that's why the laws are on the books, but if you look at how they've been enforced and more recently,
in the past,
there tends to be racial differences. So in Dubai and in other Muslim countries, this young man got caught up for two reasons. The first, as you indicated, had to do with the age differential.
Right.
The second had to do with the fact that they don't really play with extramarital sex, and they include that as everybody who's not married. So you might think you're in love and your hormones may be raging and you can't do anything but take your clothes off. You need to stop and remember that you're in a Muslim country and they don't play that there.
Also, let's not forget, not only does he have the statutory rape issue there, he also has having sex without marriage, which you mentioned. But other than that, they also have strict laws around adultery and fornication, meaning you cannot even masturbate, allegedly, and get caught. Because that's considered fornication. And the thing that's I think this young man, and besides that, guys, also they have what's called public decency laws, which criminalizes behaviors like filming yourself and texting what you filmed. Isn't this crazy? So if he gets off of the statutory rape charges, and then he's some way and somehow able to escape what they call, I think it's called the
Shakira.
What is it called? Fakana. Fakana. The Fakana law, which is like
Name is Fakana. It's the
Sharia?
Zena's marriage.
Okay.
Right? Sexual relations outside of marriage is called Zina, and that's strictly prohibited. So, there you go, Sharia law. Thank you, Turner. But if he escapes that, he still has to unpack the fornication and the public decency laws.
Well, and that's a point for the algoriters too. I think most of the people who watch us are over 18. So for your kids, for your cousins, for your play cousins, for anybody you know who is under the age of 18, they can't be taking pictures of themselves having sex and sending them via text message or on Snapchat either, because it violates the minors laws here. Yeah. So the thing is that everybody's all proud. Everybody thinks they're so hot and sexy and look at me because I want to pretend like I'm on OnlyFans. If you are underage, do not record it and don't send it, because otherwise you can find yourself in a world of trouble and you might not be going to college. Instead, you might be out with Diddy, and Diddy might have some baby oil and may make you do some things you ain't want to do. So you should avoid that. I always got to pull him in.
I got to tell you, and that's the point is, forget going to Dubai. All right, this economy, we ain't all got Dubai money. All right, like you two. But even if you just go into Cleveland, all right, you need to understand that, and this is what I tell my sons. The 3 rules my sons have for dating any woman. All right, 1. He need to see her AARP card. All right, she need to present that at the hotel. All right. 2, she need to be wearing a slip. All right. If you don't know what slip is, then obviously she's too young.
You know what?
And 3rd,
nobody wears a slip.
Yep, she need to be wearing a slip. And 3rd, she need to have varicose veins. He can make his way home. All right, all right. He need to know the whole roadmap. If she ain't got those 3 things, she too young.
You right? Roadmap, her varicose veins.
Exactly. I need to be able to get home. She need to be able to get home and just on her varicose veins. Don't be in there with these young girls. All right. Because seriously, I mean, this is a thing that can happen in America. All right. You're 18. She's 17.
Right. What I thought was very disturbing here was the young lady and her family left Dubai and went back to London or went back to the UK.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm assuming the mother and the daughter got into some type of argument, and the mother wanted to see her phone immediately, went in her phone, saw these pictures, these videos of her daughter having sex with the young man and whatever else they had videoed, their Ray J. Kim K video, and she calls the country of Dubai.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And
the United Arab, UAE, and Dubai, and she tells on him and supplies the pictures, and they go pick him up and arrest him.
Right. But she would have done the same thing, by the way, in London. Dubai just happened to be where he was and also more serious. And he would have had similar problems in London. He might have had some Romeo and Juliet exceptions that would make it less, but it's probably a crime there if you're 18 and she's 17. And
I just feel like they don't have the decency. You don't have the fornication. You don't have, you might
have that.
But you don't have those 5 other things that rings up that 20 years. This young man is 18. His life will be ruined, basically.
Oh, no. And until 2020 in Dubai, you couldn't even be 40, go to and have sex with someone you weren't married to, even if you, by the way, were a tourist. So you'd bring your girlfriend on a date, to Dubai. That wasn't the place to do it.
Wow.
Right. Yeah, because your wife in Pennsylvania find out you went to Dubai.
She's gonna turn you in.
I didn't mean just that. I mean.
All right, guys. Happy Friday. I told you it was going to be an interesting night. Next up, Jussie Smollett's hate crime hoax conviction has been overturned. And a shocking legal twist, Jussie Smollett's conviction for orchestrating a hate crime hoax has been overturned by the Illinois Appeals Court. What does this mean for Smollett's reputation and the public perception of his case? So I'm going to start off here, guys, and then I want you guys to join in. Now, I want to be very clear, and I want to, I was one of the lead commentators on this case for Fox Nation. It was a 5-part docuseries. I've shared this before. We spent hours and days going through the case, going through all of the court documents. I want to be very clear about something. This has nothing to do with him not committing the crime. All right. He was found guilty, 16 felonies, that he in fact committed the crime. I want everybody to understand that. All right. Now, Kim Foxx, who was the state attorney general at that time, dropped the charges for a plea deal. She said, I will drop the charges if you do community service and you forfeit your $10,000 bond. Okay? Now, this is where it gets tricky. He did it. He got off. The city of Chicago said, oh, heck no. We're not playing that. So then they assigned a special prosecutor named Dan Webb to go behind Kim Foxx because she accused her, what's it called? Recused herself. Goes behind him and says, no, that wasn't done right. And they came up with 6 additional charges. All right. 6 additional charges different than the 16 that he was found guilty of. It was that double jeopardy that was taken to the Supreme Court. And I'm going to let you, Attorney Turner, take it from there.
So I have to say, we've talked about Mr. Smollett quite a few times, and we had some nickname for him, Juicy something or other. I can't remember.
Yeah. Jussie Smollett.
Yeah. But this is interesting, and I actually think the Supreme Court of Illinois got it right, even though it feels slimy to us and distasteful, because prosecutorial discretion really should be honored, because otherwise, for algoriters, you go in, you think you're negotiating with somebody who has authority, you agree to something, and the next thing you know, it's not upheld, and you have all of
you
this.
Feel some kind of way.
Right.
But explain that to us though, because I've gotten a lot of inboxes. They were like, "Oh, I told you." Tell us what. So in essence, what it means is that when you do a plea deal, and you agree to admit that in his case, he agreed to admit of what he did. Right. Found guilty, but he agreed to, if he admit to it, do community service. If he does community service, if he pays $10,000, they'll let him off.
Right.
Let's make sure that we understand that. That's how he got off of the original charges. Now, what happens is, if I'm not understanding, and Counselor Carter, you can join in here. In this particular case, right? If you do a plea deal, and then you come back and say, "Hey, we didn't like who struck the plea deal,"
right?
And you're like, "But wait a minute, I confessed. I said that I'll do my community service." Explain to us why precedence as well as state versus defendant is so important. Because if you work a deal, you're leaning on the power to be, right?
And
so
now this is
you're
absolutely right. This case is kind of interesting in this respect. One, they didn't do an actual plea deal in the sense that Jussie went to court, allocuted, which is saying, "Hey, I did it. I did all the stuff." They said, "Hey, we're going to drop the charges, but you go ahead and let us keep this money and do the 16 hours of community service," which he did. By the way, he did the community service. So normally when a prosecutor dismisses charges without prejudice, what they're saying is, we don't have enough evidence now to get you, but we might later. So we're going to drop it now, but later we might come back. But if you've already done the thing that they asked you to do, right, then basically what the court said here was, it's not double jeopardy. We didn't charge you twice, because the first time we didn't technically charge you. But since we treated the first one like a plea deal and you had to actually do something, that 16 hours of community service is really what saved him here. All right, is that they said, "Hey, you already have paid your debt to society, so to speak. Now we can't make you pay it again." But if they had just dismissed the charges and didn't keep his money and didn't make him do the community service,
they make it go back
again.
150, right?
Yeah.
Right. And it was that distinction is that he actually, even though he didn't have a formal plea deal, he had acted like he was in a plea deal. He had served punishment like he was in a plea deal, so they couldn't go back at him again. And this is something that happens, by the way. Same thing happened, for instance, Bill Cosby. Bill Cosby was let out because the first prosecutor had said, hey, we're not going to charge you. Now, that usually doesn't mean anything, but here's why I meant something here. Because Bill wasn't going to be charged, then when he went to the civil deposition, he couldn't plead the fifth because they said, hey, there's no criminal charges, so you have to tell us everything. He then tells everything, and then they use what they got there and say, no, now we're going to bring charges. They're like, no, you can't do that. So if you're a prosecutor and you make a deal with somebody, that deal holds, and they should be able to rely on that deal, even if you have some technical thing like, dismissed without prejudice.
Right. Okay, Attorney Kerner, before we rotate off of this, talk to me, though, about the city of Chicago, as we know, has filed a civil lawsuit against Smollett to recover costs related to investigating the alleged hoax. Will this higher court decision weaken this civil lawsuit against Smollett?
It depends on the timing. So if the investigation ensued after he made plea deal, right? Then it should strengthen his defense to avoid those expenses because he had involved this plea deal. And so they shouldn't have been investigating it at all. The point that Attorney Carter made is a great one. And what the judge says is that by trying him in that case after he had that deal, it was a violation of his due process rights. The plea deal is a negotiated deal, right? It's just like any kind of contract at arm's length. So he pled guilty in exchange for the reduced penalty, right? He didn't plead guilty. Now, you know all the backstory, and you're like, he's guilty. But from a legal perspective, he only pled guilty so that he could get a lesser charge. And so a lesser penalty. And so once that was taken off the table, what the judge is saying is, in truth, his guilty plea also should have been taken off the table because that happens behind closed doors all the time. And it's designed to promote justice. And in this case, Jussie didn't receive justice. And what did he say? He paid $3.5 million for this?
He said he spent $3 million for it. So, I mean, to keep that felony off his record. Allegedly, he wants to adopt, and you can't adopt kids if you're a felon.
Yeah, he can adopt. He can go work at Walmart now. Like, he's got lots of options.
Yeah. I gotta tell you though, Shatan, you and I are in the wrong business. $3.5 million?
Yeah.
I mean, when I think about it, it has been going on since 2019. So what he spent, $1 million a year in legal fees, that just does not make any sense to me.
That's a lot, right?
I would have paid the $150,000. I had my lawyers, reduce the charges so it wouldn't be a felony. And I would have turned this page in 2000 during the pandemic, went away for a year, came back in 2021 and pretend like nothing else ever happened.
It was the principle for him, I guess.
Well, Algorithm, you out there, you want to do a hoax? Call me. I'll defend you for a lot less than $3 million. I did about 2.5. Two.
You're so crazy. All right, next up, Shatan, you and I, undergraduate school is in celebrity court of public opinion. University of Virginia Shooter Pleads Guilty. The man responsible for the tragic University of Virginia shooting has pleaded guilty. This emotional case continues to shed light on issues surrounding gun violence and campus safety across the United States. What a freaking sad story this is. The young man named in this case, do we know his name? I forgot. What is his name?
Let's see, we do know his name.
What? I didn't see. But anyway, the case involving a former University of Virginia student who's pleaded guilty to killing 3 football players on campus comes with very severe legal implications under United States criminal law, specifically in Virginia. Attorney Carter, would you please break down to us the murder charges and the difference between first-degree murder and second-degree murder?
Yeah. So first-degree murder is called premeditated. Right? So when you said you go out and plan it, you say, I'm going to do this, tomorrow, and you actually go through with it. Second-degree murder is more what we talked about before, heat of passion. Right? You get mad at someone all of a sudden, and then you attack. And then there is manslaughter, there's, a negligent homicide, all that stuff. Obviously, first-degree murder is the most seriously punished crime. A person who could think something out and then not change their mind and go through it is the most dangerous person. And here we have nothing but evidence of premeditated murder, because before the murder, he's texting his adult mentor, saying things like, today I'm either going to go to jail or hell. He also, at one point, says they're not getting off this bus. The young man, he then goes onto the bus to shoot. He texts his mother beforehand, says, I love you, Mom, and a few other family members. This is about as premeditated as you can get. It's not going to be the case. He can argue that I just, snapped at one point. This is something that he had obviously planned to do for at some point. And it's really, it's tragedy, obviously.
Beyond tragedy here, and I want us to speak about this for those who don't know. They were returning from Washington, D.C. The class had gone on a field trip to Washington, D.C., I think to go see the African American Museum. And this particular class had a large number of football players in the class, including this young man who was also on the team. And as the bus pulled back onto the university campus, before everybody was to, unload, he unloaded shots and tried to kill as many of his teammates as he could, because he felt like that he was being bullied and had been bullied. And he took the lives of these 3 young, super talented young men on the University of Virginia's football team. Now, what I also find very interesting, and Attorney Turner, you can discuss this, they are also throwing the book at him. They are charging him with malicious wounding, attempted murder of other people on the bus who escaped, and the use of a firearm in the commission of a felony. Can you please tell me, what does the use of a firearm in the commission of a felony mean?
So this case is actually kind of hard for me to talk about because it was so emotional at the time. I wrote this poem about it. Those 3 young men, I called them princes who would be kings. And one of your classmates, I believe, her daughter was on the bus because she was in that class. And so she witnessed all of this happen. So it was too close for comfort. And my heart goes out to these young men's families and all of those who witnessed it. So I think we talked about this a couple of shows ago in the relationship to another criminal case, which is if you have a weapon, that kind of puts your criminal activity on steroids, even if you don't use the weapon. In this case, he murdered these young men, but there are other criminal charges that he was involved in. Like it was, a state university. He assaulted and committed battery on the other people who were on the bus who witnessed it, intentional infliction of emotional distress, like all of these other claims, and he had the weapon. And so having the weapon can be used as an accelerant, if you will, to enhance the penalties for the other criminal actions. And to your point about throwing the book at him, prosecutors, as we were just talking about, in prosecutorial discretion, can decide whether they want to accelerate other criminal charges based on certain things. And sometimes what's negotiated is like, oh, you could accelerate it based on the use of the firearm, but under these circumstances, we won't if you plead guilty. I think all of those things are not available to this young man because the university community and the nation were shook by this. And he is going to be, up for all the potential penalties as strict as possible.
Right. Now, before I get to you, Attorney Carter, I do want to share with the algorithms that, remember, guys, whenever you bring out a gun on a university property, it automatically becomes what? Like if you bring it out in a airport, it becomes a federal crime. And you now could lead to federal charges for violence in an educational institution. I just find like this young man, I don't know. But the question I wanted to ask you, Attorney Carter, was this. He pleaded guilty. And I was reading somewhere that the reason why he pled guilty was because they it was him taking accountability, and in his taking accountability, I guess the whoever wrote the letter, whatever those letters you guys call it, said that him taking pleading guilty would accelerate not having a jury trial, so it would not be this drawn out jury where these families had to relive the death of all of their kids and the trauma that occurred on the bus and all the people that were affected. As his lawyer, Attorney Carter, would you have taken that stance? I personally would have pleaded insane or mental illness of some sorts.
I'm thinking that because you're right. Here's the weird part is, by the way, Virginia does not have the death penalty. The most they have is life imprisonment without parole, which he likely is going to get, and he pled guilty to that. Like, why would you plead to the largest possible sentence? But you mentioned something that's important. Here's why. Remember, you said he committed a federal crime. The feds have the death penalty. So partially, maybe, I don't know, I wasn't there, but maybe the idea here is you plead guilty to this, you go in, and therefore we spare ourselves the feds coming in and imposing a lot tougher penalty, because the feds actually still do have capital punishment.
I just don't understand. I just didn't understand why. Clearly, he's emotionally disturbed. Clearly. I don't understand. Can you re-enter that into the case after a guilty plea, or does it not matter?
It becomes a mitigating circumstance when the judge is going to sentence you. But here's the issue here, and it's and I don't know this. I don't have enough facts here to figure this out. Oftentimes, when we have someone who could plead guilty by reason of insanity, they have a previous record of mental health difficulties. They're seeing a psychologist. They would been, bullied in school and have been loners. And this guy, from what I can tell, was a member of the team until fairly recent, until fairly near this incident. So he probably doesn't have that long time history of mental health issues that would, because here's the thing about it is, everybody could say what I did here was crazy, so I'm insane. That's not how it works. You actually have to have a prior history of having mental difficulties, emotional difficulties. We're not going to just simply say what you did was crazy, so you get, to plead not guilty by reason of insanity.
Yeah, not spending too much time on here, but I do believe that there was some documentation of his struggles mentally. I think there were instances, right, where he tried to bring up his issues that he had with the different players, the team. He felt like that they were making fun of him. I think they may have hazed him at some point or something like that, Shatan, if you want to lean in.
They did. There was some evidence of bullying, but I want to go back to what Attorney Carter was saying, because this is an important point for the algoriters. I work with a lot of psychiatrists, and the one point that they like to make is that everyone who does something that's unexplainable does not have a clinical diagnosis of mental illness. And so you can't necessarily always connect those dots. So I'm assuming he had good counsel. His counsel may have had him examined by a psychiatrist, and the psychiatrist may have concluded that he did not have any type of psychosis or other mental illness, which is why they weren't able to plead guilty by virtue of insanity. Yeah. And they weren't able to plead any mitigating circumstances. As Attorney Carter indicated, he's texting, he's calm, he has this premeditated thing. He doesn't have the crime of passion. They weren't bullying him on the bus. Apparently, everybody who was on the bus was shocked that this happened. So it wasn't like he could point to something and say, I snapped. And I think the other reason they pled guilty is because there were so many witnesses. Really, what was his defense going to be?
Yeah, I think I don't mind him pleading guilty, but I would have put like mental insanity or something. I would have put something mental on it, because the thing that concerns me the most about this is, like Attorney Carter said, if federally, if he pleads guilty and the state finds him guilty, charges him, sentences him, right? The feds can come behind that and say, oh, that wasn't enough. You've already laid our case out for us. I want to seek the death penalty here.
But that's why would you do that? It's going to cost you money. It's going to cost the feds money to you got the guy in jail forever. Why would the feds want to pick up extra expenses, right? Of a trial, of sending, of housing them, of execution, of all of that, when you know what I mean? It's like it's already done for them. Now you're right, they could do that, but why would they? They only really do that when you get off in the state level, then they come after you to try to make sure some justice is done. You don't get any more justice than, well, I shouldn't say it, but you don't get much more severe penalty than life in imprisonment that the feds don't have to pay for.
All right, let's lighten it up a little bit.
But one thing, but to Attorney Carter's point, often when you see the federal government come behind the state government pursuing charges, it's because the state was too lenient from their perspective, and they want to make a point. Under these circumstances, he may have bought himself life imprisonment, which I guess is worth it if you don't want to die, but it's the strictest penalty that exists in the state, and so the feds may just pass on it.
Right. This is such a tough case because, you know, he's such a young kid. He's 20 years old. His life is over. He's 25 now?
I think so, but still, I mean, he's young.
He was a kid, though.
He's such a young kid, and he snaps on a bus and kills his teammates. Oh, all right. Let's lighten this up a little bit. But before we do, be sure to hit that like button. The likes aren't liking. Thank you, everybody who's watching on this Friday night. Also, be sure to hit that subscribe button. If you already subscribed, be sure to hit that share button and invite some friends over to enjoy the show while we spill some tea and teach you about the law. Also, don't forget to turn on your notifications, as well as jump down in the comments and get your questions ready so that we can go to you, the jury, to answer any outstanding issues or questions that you may have relating to the topics that we are exploring. Next up, Real Housewives star Ashley Darby files for divorce. Ashley Darby from the Real Housewives of Potomac has officially filed for divorce from Michael Darby, citing irreconcilable differences. Fans are buzzing about how this split will play out in the upcoming season and are buzzing more about her comment on What Happens Live with Andy Cohen when she says that she has a big life announcement coming soon during the reunion show. Attorney Turner, tell me what's going on with Ashley Darby.
I mean, look at that. Look at their pictures. Did anybody was anybody surprised it didn't work out? No, just opposites attract, and you know, things can happen, but she's getting divorced. They have 2 kids, I believe.
2 boys.
Yes. And so it'll be interesting to see what she pursues from a child support perspective, because I mean, I've seen the show a few times. She don't strike me as trying to work that hard. And so no judgment. I actually don't want to work that hard, but I keep finding myself in positions where all I have to do is work hard. So more power to her. If she can figure out a way to get paid and not work hard, you know, respect.
Well, this is the deal. I think the one thing that I've enjoyed, I mean, Ashley used to be a bartender in Washington, D.C., here in Washington, D.C. Young, attractive young lady, you know, bumped into a very obviously successful businessman. Well, some say successful, some say not, but had money. Got married. This happened 10 years ago. Got on a reality show. She was very timid. But as you've watched that reality show evolve, you've seen this woman come into her own. And in her coming into her own, she's now like, I don't need this man anymore. You know, I got a successful career. I'm on television. This couple was one of the most talked about couples in the franchise of Real Housewives. She's on the tongue of every, you know, body that watches that franchise and support that franchise. And she's making a lot of money because she's now becoming one of the key characters, cast members on that show. So, Attorney Carter, what do you think? What do you think her life announcement is about?
Wait a minute, let me get this straight. Because I think the allegations are, by the way, that she's making that he was cheating on her.
Yes.
Damn. What was he getting better than that? But anyway, all right. By the way, I'm a little worried about her. All right, if you're that fine and your bald head, your daddy Warbucks man is cheating on you, you obviously ain't doing something right. All right. Think about it. He wouldn't get nothing better than that. All right. So obviously, anyway, but aside from that,
order in the court. Order in the court. Before Shatan goes off, we don't want to go down this slippery slope.
I was curious. Maryland has fault divorce, and so infidelity matters. And I was like, okay, how much money is this going to cost him for cheating? And it turns out in Maryland, you can get more money in alimony and child support for cheating, but not just because they cheated, but if they had took all your money and gave it to the side chick. So if he had took the side chick to Dubai, that kind of stuff, then you can say, hey, he obviously has some money. Give me my money back. He keeps spending all of our money on her. Assuming that's not the issue.
Assets.
And then, of course, you have custody and all that stuff, right? He out in the streets, doing crazy stuff. Maybe he shouldn't be primarily responsible for getting the kids.
What happens if she's making like double he's making now because some of his business ventures went south, and now she's the breadwinner of the household?
Then she's going to have to give him money.
Yeah, he may have more assets, but spoliation of marital assets is a thing. So the thing for the algoriters is if you out there living foul, stepping out on your wife.
Here we go.
You need to research the laws in the states where you live because, as Attorney Carter indicated, there's a penalty. These United States are not Dubai, but some states don't like cheaters either. I'm just saying.
But here's the thing: I don't know who's that.
That's her.
That's her?
Yeah.
Damn.
Where did I get these lawyers from? Somebody please help me.
See, and by the way, let's be clear. I ain't got to worry about none of that because I don't worry about the laws in Arizona about community property because we got murder laws that would stop me from cheating. All right, I ain't got to worry about that. All right. But that. All right, let's go on. I'm trying to stay married and Christian here. Move on.
Your wife is. I hope she doesn't watch the show.
I hope so too.
You're gonna be in trouble.
One other thing to point out too, in terms of these allegations of infidelity, which might be why he may just stipulate, is because this is where it will get juicy for all of us if they have a trial, because she's going to have to provide evidence of the infidelity, and it may be text messages, it might be photographs, it might be video. Since they ain't minors, she ain't break the law, assuming that she complied with what it was. This could be a whole different line extension for Real Housewives, right? Ashley can play the victim. She can get some contracts with, Kleenex and, we can all, And then after it's all done, to Attorney Carter's point, she's got a hot little body and she's pretty. Next thing you know, she revamps herself and she's like doing lingerie modeling and stuff. It's a whole thing.
I think she's going to announce a new relationship with a very well-known. With a very well-known. With somebody very well-known.
Somebody gonna marry her?
Ashley, call me because I want to get down too. Call me, Ashley. Tell me how to do the next page.
Anyway,
by the way, for the algorithm, it's a very serious point because one of the things here is that in this case, she's going to have to prove infidelity, and so I actually took a look at what it would take. And like Shatan said, we have text messages and all those things. But here's the thing: is you got to obtain the text messages, all that evidence lawfully. All right, if you hack into your man's or woman's phone, get they take their password and do all that type of stuff. Put it against their face when they sleep, so you can get the face ID. You can't admit any of that stuff in the court. Now you still can use that to curse at him for 6 months, but you cannot. You have to actually find the evidence lawfully, and if you don't, it won't be considered by the court.
All right, algorithm. Be sure to hit that like button.
Look in there and you find out that there's some text messages from the paramour admitting the sexual indiscretion. It could be useful to you.
Dominic Brooks says, that's Shatan Turner. What are you drinking? No, y'all don't know. I keep telling y'all she's going through a divorce. Whenever you bring up a divorce conversation on this show, baby, she's going to go in. All right, algorithms, be sure to hit that like button. Also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Also, hit that subscribe button if you're already subscribed. Turn on your notifications and drop down in the comments because we're going to get to you next, right after this next story. Netflix, welcome to Celebrity Court of Public Opinion. Netflix faces $50 million lawsuit over Mike Tyson versus Jake Paul fight. Netflix is being sued for $50 million following streaming glitches during the highly anticipated Mike Tyson versus Jake Paul fight. The lawsuit raises questions about streaming platforms' reliability and consumer rights. I can't wait to break this down. Now, this is interesting, right, attorneys? Because this could possibly turn into a just jumped out my head. When you put a group of people together. Class action. This could actually turn into a class action lawsuit, which obviously is something that the streamer does not want. What are your thoughts on this, Attorney Turner?
I think you're right. It might have commonality and be able to achieve the elements of a class action. And so they should be concerned about it. I mean, one benefit to Netflix would be that they could negotiate with one group of lawyers instead of all of these different lawyers who could be representing people. So in that respect, the litigation costs could be less expensive than there would be trying to play whack-a-mole with all these different cases. The thing that I find is interesting is if they're being sued for $50 million, how much did they make, right? Because it's worth it to them. Like even when people complain about contract disputes or torts or whatever, and they're talking about, oh, somebody got X amount of money, you got to make sure that you think about, well, how much did they make? So don't cry for Netflix. Yeah, they had glitching problems. And here's what I would suspect, right? Allegedly, they knew they were going to have those glitching problems because their platform couldn't support the number of people who were going to be watching. And they took the risk because they knew there was so much money to be made and they were willing to get sued.
Okay, so Attorney Carter, let me ask you this, because there's been a lot of talk online about this term force major. Can you explain what they mean? What is major?
Yes.
Yeah. So force majeure means something that's beyond my control. Usually it refers to a natural disaster. All right. So if a hurricane came and knocked down their tower, they're not responsible. That's not what happened here. All right. That's not force majeure. This is something they could have anticipated. They knew how many people were going to want to watch that young boy beat up this black old man. All right. They could figure that out. I think Attorney Turner is absolutely right. This is something they anticipated. Part of the reason I suspect that they, are willing to go with this is it's a test for when they do the NFL on Christmas and all that other stuff. They go into football. They need to work out the kinks. Now, as far as the $50 million, I call it, they call it a class action. Let me tell you what it is. It's a lawyer cash grab. And here's what I mean by this. All right. 286 million people, all right, are Netflix subscribers.
Okay.
So $50 million split amongst them is less than 20 cents a person. But if you're the lawyers, you get a third of that, or 16 million. So all the rest of us will get a check for about 18 cents.
18 cents.
The lawyers would get 16 million. And by the way, 18 cents is all the damages you have. You have a streaming platform that's available for you 24 hours a day, 30 days a month. That's 720 hours. If you complain that you missed one of your 720 hours, you're entitled to 1/720th of the monthly fee, which is about 20 cents. So the idea that any of us can complain that we were really so damaged is difficult in a class action. And the lawyer, it's like, how many times you get this? I get this about twice a week. I get an email telling me that Microsoft's Word 2011 was buggy, and I'm entitled to 17 cents if I fill out these 22 pages of forms, which I'm not filling out any forms. All right. And as a result, they keep my 17 cents and the $40 million that the lawyers made.
Right. Also, they said, I think a lawyer spoke on this yesterday morning, or was it this morning when I was at Fox? They said that Netflix has what's called a term of service, which in their term of service, when you signed up and you clicked that box, yes, you also gave them the right of limited liability for service interruptions.
Right.
So they can, sorry.
No, I'll let you finish because I have something to say about that.
Yeah. So, and then the other thing that they mentioned was that if Netflix, in fact, offered people refunds or credits or other remedies, they could argue these actions mitigated damage and that resolved the issue. What do you think about that?
Well, so here's why having a lawyer represent the class is beneficial for all of us, even if we weren't in the class of people who were watching the fight. And here's why. Those kinds of clauses are useful, but that kind of boilerplate is not a panacea or excuse to flagrantly break the rules. So if it is proven that they knew that there were going to be streaming problems, then what the lawyer on the other side is going to argue is you can't use these clauses to waive your own negligence, right? It's designed to cover something else. And so I think that this is going to be the kind of case that will go down in the law school books to teach lawyers about how contract boilerplate is enforceable or not. But I think it's worthwhile. I don't know if you saw the case a couple of months ago where there was a woman who died at Disney because of an allergy, and they were trying to use
I did not see that.
Right. Yeah. It was, she was eating something, it was an allergy, and they tried to use the Disney Plus contract that her family had signed to watch the show to say that it was a waiver of being able to go to litigation, and they had to go to arbitration instead. And because of all the backlash, Disney actually backed away from it. And that case is still going to go to trial. Whether or not it will pursue or settle will remain to be seen. But companies have been attempting to do things for years that are now being frowned upon. And so I'm very interested to see if that limited liability clause will be enforced if it's proven that Netflix knew that there was going to be a problem.
Right. Is this really going to make a difference? Are we not going to subscribe to Netflix? Are we going to run away from Netflix?
Well, I'll take my 50 cents because unlike Attorney Carter, who apparently, he's moved on up and I have not. And so every time I get those things, I actually fill them out. And I think now I'm probably at like $1,200 with getting like $5 here and there.
Like the cell phones and all that crazy nonsense. I got a check for like $44. Yep. Something like that. All right, algorithms. This is the time of the show where we go to you, the jury, to answer any of your questions. First up, Danielle Cameron. Thank you so much, Danielle, for always having a question for us or a statement. I'm sorry, but everyone that Shooter contacted needed. Okay, I'm sorry, but everyone that Shooter contacted needs to be charged. How is it that they are not facing charges?
My understanding is in this context, he didn't text them days and weeks ahead of time. He texted them on the bus while he was about to do it. And so there was
he didn't
no
text
way to stop
players. He texts people off the bus, right, Shaitan?
Yeah, but he texted people off the bus, but while he was on the bus, so it wasn't like they could stop him. He didn't text them, 3 days beforehand. Yeah. They could call the police.
Right.
Yeah, they weren't accessories.
Plus, I don't think that they thought that he was talking about getting ready to shoot up the bus for real, right? He was just implying. All right, Jay Calwood, 25. He's only 18, 1 year older than her, and they're doing this to him. He better learn his lesson and stop messing with these Beckys. Sorry.
Well, to be fair, I mean, I did say that maybe in the chambers, but it was kind of tongue in cheek. I mean, I haven't seen this happen with, two Black kids, but you might, if like he's from the Jacks and her parents have money, they might not approve either and take advantage of this technicality to ruin some kid's life because of it.
I just what it gives me? It gives me it just gives me that back down south, you messed with one of ours, and now that you messed with one of ours, we're going to take your life and lynch you. It just brings back such bad memories. All right, everybody, this is the time of the show where we go and we give you our verdict on whether these celebrities or people that are trending are guilty or not guilty. First up, we're going to put the Dubai's legal system. Is Dubai's legal system guilty or not guilty of being too hard on Marcus Fakana? Attorney Carter, what say you?
Oh, absolutely. They're too hard on everything. They're too hard on coffee, drinking, smoking. Yeah, exactly. No, way too hard.
They're actually not too hard.
He was.
Attorney Turner, are they guilty or not guilty of being too stringent on fornication and consensual sex?
Yeah, now that you phrased it that way, I'd say yes. I don't know that they're too hard on him because I don't think it's personal, but yeah, they do need to evolve with the times.
Right. I'm Al, and I'm the judge here in Celebrity Court of Public Opinion, and we're going to find Dubai guilty of not loosening up. You need a shot. and you need to go to the strip club. Next up. Oh, this is so sad. The young man, well, we're not going to talk about that. We know he's guilty. He pleaded guilty. Next up is Jussie Smollett, guilty or not guilty of committing the crime, the hoax. All right, this is very important. Guilty or not guilty, Attorney Carter?
Unless he normally got a Subway sandwich at 3 a.m. in the middle of a polar vortex, I'm going to have to say guilty.
Attorney Turner?
I mean, you had the African boys on here. They told you. Yeah, I mean, he's guilty. He's guilty.
Right. Yep. I'm Al, and I'm the judge here in Celebrity Court of Public Opinion, and we're going to find Jussie Smollett guilty. He was already found guilty. It's not like we're finding him guilty of anything that he hasn't already been found guilty of. And yes, we're having the African brothers who were a part of the hoax back on the show. We're doing a special edition over the weekend. That's why I say, please turn on your notifications because we're going to sit down and talk to them about how they feel about this Supreme Court ruling, as well as we're going to talk about their book that they have talking about was the hoax necessary. All right, next up, Ashley Darby. Is she guilty or not guilty of wanting to get rid of her man? Attorney Turner, what say you?
Guilty want to get rid of her man. How about we just give her a medal for getting the come up in the evidence and hopefully getting paid? Go, Ashley. Go, Ashley. Go.
No more divorcees on my show. Attorney Carter?
She guilty of being too fine to be cheated on. All right? You that fine, and Daddy Warbucks, bald head man cheating on you. Something wrong. You did something wrong, baby. Come on.
I'm Alan. I'm the judge here in the Celebrity Court of Public Opinion, and we're going to find Ashley guilty of finally making enough money to where she don't have to depend on nobody else. Last but not least, Netflix. Is Netflix guilty or not guilty of not letting us see Mike Tyson's booty cheeks when we were supposed to see the booty cheeks without the interruption of service? Attorney Turner, what say you?
Yeah, Netflix is guilty. They own this one.
Attorney Carter?
Netflix isn't guilty. We guilty. We guilty of watching that stuff in the first place. They were trying to do us a favor and keep us from watching elder abuse. And we sat there and went through the streams to get elder abuse. We all owe Netflix 20 cents. $1 million.
I'm Al Reynolds, and I'm the judge here in Celebrity Court of Public Opinion. And I'm going to find Netflix guilty. I want to see Tyson's cheeks in real time. Not a replay. I paid for that. All right, everybody. As we wrap up today's session, let's remember the law is complex and celebrities' cases often bring their own very unique challenges, as you can see. Our discussion, however, aims to shed light on these issues and empower you, our viewers, with knowledge. Thank you for your thoughtful questions and participation. Until next time, keep questioning, stay informed, and always remember, Celebrity Court of Public Opinion is a powerful place where your voice can and will always be heard. Court is now adjourned.